Well, folks, they rigged a lot more than the London interbank offering rate, the LIBOR. They rigged far more than LIBOR, and they rigged far more than the gold markets. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the use of high interest rate, uh, 10-year balloon payment, no verification, 125% mortgage funding in the predatory subprime mortgage markets. This is how you launder endless amounts of dirty money. This is precisely how Danske Bank, Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Zions Bank, Wachovia, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of New York Mellon, Taylor Bean and Whitaker, the Western Banks of Houston, Texas, Allied Bank, First City Bank, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Selling these dirty little loan packages from the dirty little loan brokers, the mortgage brokers, to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Federal Housing Finance Administration, the Veterans Administration, and the list again goes on and on and on and on and on. You see, ladies and gentlemen, everything is rigged. Just like President of the United States, Donald Trump, says, everything is rigged. Now, let's take a hard, cold, long look at just how much money came up missing and these toxic zombie assets. The massive bailout that the United States government provided to the crooks. You've got a multi-trillion-dollar bailout. They bailed out the banks on an international scale for the tune of trillions. And then they turned around and fined them a few lousy billion. So explain to me, please, who is it precisely that actually paid the fines? Who paid the $25 billion settlement? Who paid for that? Well, it damn sure wasn't the banks. This is how Barack Obama and the Clintons, Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder and Eric Schneiderman, and the Bushes and the Bakers and the candlestick makers, this is how they lined their pockets. They lined their pockets by providing just unbelievable amounts of bailout, trillions, to people who were laundering hundreds and hundreds of billions, and then they fined them a few measly billion. Now, one more time, I mean, if you got to call your lifeline, please feel free to do so. But put your answer below. Who is it exactly that paid for any of the fines and penalties associated with the gargantuan robbery of not just the American people? They didn't just swindle them and con them and set them up for these subprime predatory loans in their money laundering operations. You see, every bit of this bailout, every bit of this TARP, every bit of the so-called rescue of the banks and the mortgage companies and HUD and FHA and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, every last bit of this giant multi-trillion-dollar rescue was rigged. They rigged the entire banking system from top to bottom using the Federal Reserve and their money printing powers, you know, quantitative easing. They used vast quantitative easing printed from the thin air, right out of the thin air. This is where they get the money, right out of nothing. Print it, you know, they type it up on their computer consoles, and they bailed out the entire system because the entire system from A to Z is completely rigged, especially the part where they lured all the mortgage borrowers into the market. This is how they sucked you in. They sucked you in with vast amounts of resources, cash, assets, whatever you want to call them, wealth that was printed from nothing. They baited and lured you. They baited you right into these high interest rates, certain to fail. I mean, they lent money to people that couldn't go buy a used Pinto. They couldn't buy a broken down old Ford Maverick, or they couldn't even get a junker from Rent-A-Wreck. Their credit just didn't stand the scrutiny of an actual investigation to see if they were qualified to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars on homes that were worth about half as much. In other words, the appraisals were rigged as well. Ask Donald J. Trump and ask his attorney Cohen about how they inflate the appraised value of realty in order to qualify it for subprime predatory loans. This is how they launder money. And the financial enforcement FinCEN there, or FinCEN, whatever they call themselves there, the Financial Enforcement Criminal Enforcement Network of the United States government. The ball's in your court, folks. Right along with the Consumer Finance Protection Agency, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, excuse me, with all the other FHA and HUD and OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and especially the United States Congress House Intelligence Committee and the United States Congress Financial Oversight Committee. They're doing these investigations into money laundering and all these funny bank loans and interest rates and appraisal rigging. It's all rigged, isn't it, Donald Trump? Now I'm going to close this one out by stating cause number 2, semicolon 19 dash CV dash 005. It's in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Tennessee, where the Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Select Portfolio Services, Gerald Cogno's Pioneer, Premier, and Paramount mortgage brokering operations have all been fingered. They've been fingered for luring countless consumers, countless families into these overinflated, high interest rate, super balloon note payment, certain to be foreclosed, certain to fail mortgage transactions. And folks, this is how you launder hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of so-called dollars. They're not even dollars. They're printed from nothing, keystroked into existence, reserve notes. This is how you launder vast amounts of reserve notes, because the entire banking system is rigged. One more time. The President of the United States says that everything's rigged, and that would include these mortgage markets. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it right there, and as always, hasta la vista, God bless, and you can bet your sweet you know what. We're on this one like stink on a cow patty.